Hi, it's Renee from Crossroads Calligraphy, and while I still have the camera set up, I thought I would come on real quick and do a demo about how to draw guidelines for writing calligraphy in a circle. Now, check out our other guidelines videos about what the different guidelines mean, and then you'd be able to apply that to what we're drawing here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera and we'll get started. Okay, so real quick, I'll go over the tools that I will be using today. So I have paper. I don't think, maybe I don't need it taped to the table, but I'll leave it taped to the table for now. We'll see what I do. I have a pencil, sharp pencil, my sharpeners with me. I have a ruler, and then I also have a set of compasses, and these were also a hand-me-down from my neighbor. So they have a point on one side and then a lead inserted on the other side that I have sharpened using a very fine sharpener. I got this at my local art store. It is for a point holder like this. Okay, so since this is not a big piece of paper, this should be 4.25 inches by, no, 5.5 inches by 11 here. So I'm just gonna, I think, make a small circle today. No, I'll use the big one so you can see it. Awesome. Okay, set this aside for now. So the first thing that I'm going to do is draw a horizontal line. Just to kind of keep myself anchored here. And I'm holding the pencil lightly. I'm holding it away from the point. My palm is facing to the side instead of down. So I'm not putting a lot of pressure down on the pencil. I'm just pulling it across the page so that it makes a line. Now I've done a double line so that you can see it, but normally it wouldn't be so big. So it doesn't really, well, I'll try to put the point as much in the center as I can. The center of the page as much as I can. This is just a demo. Okay, so I place the point and draw a circle. Oh, see my rings there. Okay. And where the point is, I'm going to try to catch it and I'm going to circle it actually. And I circle it because if I make a mark on it, then it's going to distort where the hole actually is, or where that point actually was. Again, I've drawn this circle also very lightly, so I can erase it later. So great. This is our new baseline. This circle is our baseline. And the next thing to do would be to measure how big I want my X height to be. So I still have my compass at the same width, the same opening as I drew for the circle. And what I'm going to do, we'll play with this height. Oh, it's going to be super tiny. So I'm going to put the lead at the bottom of where the module starts. And I'm going to open it until it's at the top of the module. And put the point back where I had it and draw another circle. Okay. So we have this as the baseline. This is our header line. Okay. And then if I had additional parts of the module that went above the header line, like for italic script or foundational, then I would reposition where the compass was and then open it further to accommodate that, and then add another line above to accommodate for the ascender line. Let's just do that for show. We'll pretend this is foundational. It's fun drawing a circle around a camera. Okay, so now this is the ascender line. And then you would, if you had a descending line, you would close the compass. You'd probably actually draw the descending line first. So you would have it at the baseline, have the compass at the baseline, and then close it depending on how far away the descending line would be. And then come back to your circle and draw, oops, and then draw that in. Okay, great. So now we have our horizontal guidelines, the height of the script. The lines that we'll use as vertical guides are going to radiate out from the center. Okay. This demonstration assumes you're using a vertical script. So you'll line your ruler up with the hole in the center. So that's a vertical guide. The line we already drew is a vertical guide. I tend to split the circle. Oops, I missed that one. Okay, and it's pretty obvious that the angle of our vertical line goes from broad to narrow. So that means that our calligraphy is going to do that too. Now, here, it looks very dramatic and obvious, but we're only working in this amount of space, really, here. So I'll show you an example of circular calligraphy that I've written before. Okay, so by comparison with our circle here, this is the X height. By comparison with our circle here, this is how, like, this is the size. It's not much bigger actually than the one that's on our page, but, and you can even still see, like, this is the fold actually. Never mind. This is where the center of the circle was. But even though the angle of the vertical guides gets broader the further it gets away from the center, you can't really notice that in the calligraphy. If it's a smaller circle, you'll be able to notice it. But I guess that brings me to the next part of the demo, and that's to actually write in the circle. Untaped, here we go. To actually write in the circle, I turn it as I write. Removed all the tape real quick. So now I'm just pulling straight down toward the baseline, and I'm not thinking circular letters. And did you see I turned the page a little bit straight down toward the baseline? Okay. And I turn it as I write. Which, I mean, as you saw with the ends, you have to turn the page a couple of times within writing one letter. Okay. So just kind of take your time, and so that brings me to the next tip that I had, which is to make a layout for yourself. Like what you could do is, what I like to do is go back over the circle with a pen, and that way I can practice in a pencil, and I can just erase the pencil and the pen stays. You could also put a piece of tracing paper or layout bond over your circle, and that way you can start to actually use the tool that you want to use. Like say I wanted to use a calligraphy nib, I could write with the calligraphy nib on top of the layout bond on top of this guide, and that will help you to judge how much text can fit within the circle. You could also play with different writing tools to make sure that you can get your text into the circle. And I also tend to make notes of what changes I made. So I could write like I wrote this with a pencil, or I wrote with a Mitchell 2 nib, or you know, the text didn't fit. So then I would adjust the size of the circle. So I didn't make any markings here, but what I could do is say, like, what's this diameter? I don't know, I'll measure it. It'd be great. I could say, what's the diameter? It's 2¼ inches. And then the next circle I write, or the next circle I create, I can change that. You could also adjust the X height, like the module, however many nib widths it was. So these are all important notes to make so that as your design progresses, you have kind of a starting off point and you don't have to go back and refigure out what you did. Quick edit, I was watching this video back and I realized that I only wrote from the center of the circle out. So when I'm writing in a circle, I like the top to read normally. So I'll start at the header line and pull toward the center of the circle. And we'll just write briefly so you can see. Well, let's see. Let me pause this and move. Okay. So again, I'm following along with my vertical guidelines, and I'm starting, this is the header line and this is the baseline here. Turning the page as I write. Oh boy. Norm. It's the guy who owned my house before me. So even in my notes here, you can read from top to bottom here, baseline, like, and so we're accustomed to reading left to right and then down. So with the circle, we're going left to right, norm, and then our eyes come over here and they want to go down again. And I'd rather have like a split sentence fragments that read this and then this, rather than one thing that goes all the way around. Okay, so if I'm writing on the top half of the circle, I'm writing from this header line toward the base line. And then on the bottom half of the circle, these two lines switch. So now this would be the header line and this would be the base line. Now, as always, it is your work and it is up to you. So if you feel like just continuing the circle, if you feel like just continuing to turn the page and write around, by all means do it. And if you figure out how to write calligraphy in a spiral, send me a message. I want to know. This is a long video for a demo, but I guess that means I just have a lot to say. So any questions that you have about this, let me know. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye. Thank you.